everyone. Welcome back to today's podcast. My name is Brittany Simon. In today's podcast, we are guested by Sneako. Hi, Sneako.
How you doing, Brittany? It's good to be back.
Good. So happy to see you. And his friend, Danya?
Danya, we were on Pearl's show yesterday.
Awesome.
She's well-spoken, and she makes a lot of sense. She's actually has a similar worldview to you, Brittany.
Yeah.
But she didn't really get the chance to speak that much on the podcast because there's some loud feminists who just talk over the whole time. So I think she
did
did
it ruin it? Well, I'm excited to hear from you guys then. Go ahead, tell me.
Yeah, it just gives me a headache talking to these people, but Danya is a woman who makes sense.
Okay,
And,
I'm excited about that. How did you guys meet?
we met on the show yesterday.
Like literally yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, here's to new friendships, I guess. Okay, that's exciting. How old are you? Well, tell us how old you both are.
I'm 24 and Danny's 22.
22. Okay, awesome. So I wanted to have you on the podcast, Sneako, and of course I'm happy you're here as well. I want to talk about being exceptional. It's come up a lot, and I think because of where you're at in the world, I would argue that you are quite exceptional. But I know a lot of people don't want to think that of you. And so I wanted to ask you, why do you think people have a hard time seeing you as exceptional?
I think a lot of people have their own agenda and they have a lot of ego. I think social media has done that, and we see it like in the podcast we were on yesterday. Everybody wants to be that voice of truth and thinks that they know everything. And I don't think people are willing to put themselves in a vulnerable situation, to be completely honest. People don't like being wrong. People don't like being curious. And I think I add something to the social media space that's pretty uncommon when it comes to being curious and open-minded and being extremely honest. And I've been doing it for so long. I don't really come on acting like I know everything. I come on with a mindset of seeking truth, which is rare. And I think I think a lot of it is jealousy. And also a lot of it is also arrogance and a lack of understanding. But this is why I like what you do, is that you come in with a lot of empathy, and not fake empathy, which is what I think a lot of women do now. That they a lot of times they can be patronizing in the way that they talk to men. And we saw it on the show last night. There's the way they talk to men, they'll do this fake empathy thing where they'll be like, "Oh, do you know how to fight?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I know how to fight." "Oh, okay, that's good. It's like you have to qualify. It's like, "Oh, you're not a little bitch. Like, oh, you're like a big boy, huh?" And it's not. And they act like it's empathetic and understanding because they'll be like, "Oh, that's really good. Oh, you're like a rumbler. Like you're like exceptional. Okay, that's whatever. They're kind of gay, but still." That's the way that they talk, and it's not really empathetic. It doesn't come from a place of understanding. It comes from a place of competition.
Because one of the things I struggle with, especially when I start to express, interest in different people's belief systems and how people do things, I guess I see like parts of people I know in you, so I can humanize you very easily. Or I'm like, oh yeah, like I know people who have this mindset, or I know people just like this, and they're really good people. And so from knowing people similar to you, I'm like, well, I know they're good, and then I've talked to you a little bit, and I know you're good, and I know you have the best intentions. But do you think that it's ideology that really makes people think you have bad intentions, or is there some part of you that secretly does have bad intentions?
I don't have bad intentions, and it's not just ideology. And I think the reason that you understand it is because probably the people that you're talking about are they younger than you?
Yeah, they can be. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what you are understanding is when I sound aggressive or when I sound straightforward, people will get off put by that. They're like, "Why is this guy like yelling at me? Like, calm down." Yesterday we did the show and this girl said that I was vibrating with misogyny, and I've never heard that before. He's like, "Your vibrations are misogynistic," and it's I've never heard that in my life, which I thought was extremely stupid. But I do understand it because there's people with the same ideology as me, but they come off and they explain it in a different way. And I come on pretty hard-headed and aggressive and debate style and loud, which they see it as like a personal attack. People get really off put by that. I've noticed in my life that people always explain to me that the way I'm speaking is off-putting to people, but I think that you kind of see past that and you don't really consider that as aggressive as other people do, which I could probably do better at articulating myself in that way to get through to more people. I can understand why women would say that I'm vibrating with misogyny, but in some sense, I don't really feel the need to go and change up my tone of voice for these people because I think that they're already going to disagree with me regardless. The reason why I like Danya and why I like you, Brittany, is because I don't need to go and shift that up. I can
Mm.
just express myself properly and not have to readjust. Do you think that
Yeah,
makes
I think
sense?
it's about more about listening to what you actually have to say rather than,
How you say it.
yeah.
Absolutely. Honestly, I run into the same problem. And maybe you guys too in your life, but people always tell me that, Brittany, change the way you talk differently, do it different. But the idea is that I'm supposed to be authentic, right? Isn't that the goal? So why would I switch it up? Now, I want to be a good communicator. So sometimes I'm not the best, but the way I talk, and maybe it's my Middle Eastern genes over here, but like it feels aggressive to people, but I don't mean it to be. It's just, I don't, that's just who I am personality wise. But I also am trying to reach a very specific audience. I know who my audience is, who I'm trying to talk to. So the question is like, when you make content, who are you trying to talk to? Do you know?
Yeah, I know exactly who it is. So I like talking to the whole world. I want everybody.
Mm.
So I like having input in all types of conversations. I have a specific point of view, and I do have my core audience. I'm on Discord right
Mm.
now, and I just had to go put an announcement because we were getting warnings for anti-vaccine content and
Mm.
like violent. So my audience is on the same page as me. They understand it, but I like being a part of the bigger conversation. So I think I'm at a point where I do have the core people that listen, but also there's an equal amount of people that hate watch and
Mm.
that like to watch and disagree with me, which I don't think is a bad thing. I'm not really afraid of that. I like having open dialogue. I like having debate, and it doesn't really bother me if people don't like me.
Yeah. Danya, what about in your regular life? Do you ever see it? Are you a dominant personality yourself, or do you find
Um,
yourself to be more
yeah,
stoic
I
or
definitely say so. I think when encouraging people to do better in life, some people do take it as an attack
totally?
rather than advice or seeing it as someone wanting you to do better. You know,
Totally. I run into that all the time.
definitely I've been told about my tone of voice and stuff, but it's, yeah, people just kind of need to see past that and
Well,
look forward.
I'm sure you've heard me say it a bunch of times, Nico, but like I really think everyone is so different. We all live like in these different bubbles. But I think that for me, I need to be kind of have my ass kicked a little bit. Like when I'm trying to be exceptional, when I'm trying to literally beat statistics, when I'm trying to be that person, it means that I have to defy whatever that default is, right? So how could I not be somebody who needs like a little bit of aggression to get that motivation going? And that aggression can be off-putting to most people, but if most people aren't doing the thing, I think it would be off-putting to them because they don't even know like how aggressive you have to be in certain areas to just get ahead. So I think there's a combination of those two things. Like even getting yourself to the gym takes discipline, and discipline is not something that I'm seeing quite frequently. Like have you guys ever heard the saying like die for your values? Do any of you know? Like do you ever grow up hearing that
Back
like
to respect. All right.
mm.
Death before dishonor.
Yes. Okay. A lot of people, I said that on stream the other day, and someone was like, who dies for their values? Who dies for their beliefs? And I'm like, what are you talking? The world is built off of men who died for their beliefs. So the idea that people are disconnected from that idea makes them cynical of you because it makes them think, well, what is Sneako really trying to do? And I think you're trying to be better, but I think that your process for being better looks offensive to other people. What do you think about that?
Yeah, you said it perfectly, and I want to thank you for defending me and saying that how authentic you think I am, because yeah, I think you got it spot on. It's just about, but at the same time, you need to figure out a better way of communication, like the
Mm,
most effective form of communication. My way of doing it, and I think our way is similar. It can be off-putting and aggressive to people, and it does add entertainment value when it comes to understanding. You're
yeah.
you're gonna have a hard time changing people's minds because uh, they're so off-put by how you're saying it. They're focused on the way you're saying it rather than what you're saying. So your message does get lost. And if
Absolutely.
you want to be the most effective communicator, you would get past that. But that's a constant thought process I have. It's like, are these people even really worth trying to get through to? Are these people are they really stuck in their ways, or are they worth changing? If the people that are capable of change, they have to want to change.
Yes.
And I think the people that want to change would understand it, but the people that were never going to change, they won't be able to hear it. So it's this balance, and but eventually, I think that is the best form of communication.
Yeah, there's something to be said, growing up in a house, I have 9 siblings. And so I'm used to all these personalities and all these, and I'm the oldest of 7 of them. So I have 2 older brothers, and then the rest are like my little siblings. And they come to me and they'll say things like, "Hey, what do you think I should do with this? And how do you think I should do this?" And every time I give them advice, they still pick their own path. Ultimately, I can only give them my advice, and then they have to do the journey they're going to do. And do I sometimes get insane anxiety over the mistakes my brothers make sometimes? Yes, but they are learning the same I learned. Every time I messed up, every time I did something poorly, every time I didn't understand why it didn't work for me, I had to reconstruct my perspective to actually attain my goals. I had to change. I had to radically change. And that was very difficult. Honestly, sometimes I felt like I wasn't going to make it through the change. Have you ever felt that way, like through a transformation where you're like, I've really got to do this, or I'm not going to make it?
No, I never have a defeatist mindset when it comes to that. I always know that I'm gonna come out as a better person. It's just sometimes I wish I could. Well, this is a stupid thought, but I'm like, I wish I could just fast forward to the end part where I've already figured this part out.
Totally.
But you have to enjoy the process of the work. If you don't enjoy it, then it's going to be grueling, and you have to enjoy it to the best of your ability every moment of life.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
If you don't enjoy what you do, then it's going to feel like a chore every day. And if you love what you do and you do it for free, then you never work a day in your life. So
yeah, I don't know why I keep uploading videos, but here I am. And you know what? I just hit my first 6 figures, so I was pretty proud of myself. It finally happened.
Congratulations.
Thank
In a
you.
month?
But no, God, oh please, Sneako, please, I'm poor as hell. No, in a year. No, I just finally reached my first 6 figures, and that's a big deal for me because I was a person who struggled with being financially set, thinking about business, being business minded, and I feel like I'm just starting that. And you're so young, you've already succeeded way past. Do you ever feel intimidated by your own where you are so young?
No, actually, I never feel that way whatsoever. I just compare myself to people that are more successful. Like I listened to Central C a lot recently. I think he's in London too. He's around the same age as me. He just dropped an album called 23, which is just documenting his life at 23. Just listened to the lyric before I went out to dinner, and he was talking about how he can't die now because he hasn't made 100 million yet. And I hear that, I'm like, man, I gotta step my game up. I could have been more productive today. Why am I not making 100 million? Sometimes I overslept this morning, and it's like, why am I wasting any time laying in bed scrolling for a little bit when I could be making $100 million, when I could be influencing more people, when I could be making a different video that I've never made before. I don't ever look at the place in my life and get complacent. I just look at people who are doing better, who are more motivated, who are doing more than me. I'm like, man, why am I not in that position? Because I don't see anybody else having an unfair advantage compared to me. I see it as we're all dealt the same hand, and the only reason that I'm not at the same point as somebody else is just lack of self-discipline and a lack of a strong work ethic. I don't. Yesterday we were having this discussion, and I noticed a lot of people in my generation, they use things like racism to hold them back. Oh, I'm black, so I can't have this, or I'm an immigrant, so I can't be here. And this is misogyny and all this stuff. And that type of mindset, that defeatist mindset, which is essentially what it is, that will hold you back more than any other circumstance in life. So I think that if you detach your mind from anything that's going to hold you back that you have no control of, even if racism does exist, your belief that is holding you back is stronger than the racism that's actually out there. So I like to separate myself from that and never get complacent, and just anybody who's doing better than me, I should be there too.
Okay, what if because this is how I think of it, and I think you just kind of said it in your own way. I think that I would say, that's funny, our language is so different, but I think we have the same message. I would say we're all dealt different cards. We all grew up in different environments, but if you eradicate what your culture has taught you or what the bubble is making you think, we're all actually the same. We're humans on a planet, and then we're all playing the game of survival, and then we're playing the game of success, and then we're playing the game of maybe being a good family member, and then we're playing different versions of our life. But you are raised in an environment where the game is a little different. So I'm always learn the rules of the game, then destroy the game, then make a new game or play a different game. Does that kind of translate? Versus, because I was born a woman, you were born a man, those are different lives, but ultimately we're both just people on a planet trying to do our best.
Yeah, and it just attaching yourself to anything that's going to make you a victim or hold you back. That's just, I think it's really important for anybody watching to remember that that's a stronger force pulling you back than any other circumstance. Even though, of course, there's advantages that I have as a man that you don't have as a woman.
Sure.
But complaining about it more, that's
Won't get you anywhere.
It won't. It
doesn't
doesn't help.
anything.
It doesn't help. All it does is just
Yeah.
hold you in your same spot.
Well, it's kind of like negative looping, right? You don't want to think to yourself every day, I'm not worthy. You want to think to yourself, I'm going to either earn that worthiness by being disciplined, or I'm going to prove to myself that I'm good enough. And I think that comes from the desire to believe in yourself, which I don't think everyone is exactly at, or they're not there yet. So is a part of your work trying to get people to the point where they do believe in themselves?
The point where I'm at and what I do with live streaming, I want to get people to unplug themselves from the same things that held me back before. And I see that I describe it as just most of it is woke ideology. Most of it is wokeness. These ideas were given to us and these ideas were fed to us not because they care about justice. Like when you see something censored because of misinformation, the misconception that most people have is like, oh, they care about misinformation. No, they don't. They are trying to push a specific narrative to keep us all complacent and to keep us satisfied with being mediocre, while the people who are feeding us these lies, they enjoy a life that we are never going to even fathom as possible, because we're all arguing about racism and George Floyd or whatever was in the news today, whatever celebrity drama happened, whatever climate, like whatever they tell us to be concerned about that ultimately we have no control about. People protesting the war in Ukraine, like you are not going to stop this war. Why have you been fed this? Have you been told to care about Ukraine because you're going to stop the war, or to keep you distracted and to keep you emotionally invested into something that you have no control over, so that you feel like you're doing something while you actually have no control over this? The most power that we have is becoming the best versions of ourselves, is improving, is being more impactful and truthful with your voice, and having a closer connection to God. That is the strongest thing that we are all capable of. But that's harder to believe if you're distracted by all the garbage that you see in the news and on your phone. That's an easier thing to attach yourself to emotionally and mentally. So my purpose is to get people to realize that these things, they're all psyops. They were not designed because they care about you. They were not designed so that you can go and protest it away. It was given to you as a false sense of purpose, and that's not your greater purpose. Your greater purpose is much bigger than that. So I want people to understand like why they are emotionally invested into these things. Like who people should question their worldview more often. A lot of people have really strong opinions and they're really emotional about what they believe in, and I don't really think that they even know why. Like they'll make a scrunch face, or they'll say something like you're vibrating with misogyny, and it's like, why do you why do you even think that?
Yeah.
What led you to this point? Why do you think that motherhood is oppression? Why do you think that girls need to be rapping and girl boss queens? Like, who fed you this idea? I don't think people even analyze why they have these thoughts. It's hard to get to that point, but and when I explain this to people, they get aggressive because I challenge them, and sometimes it can be really personal, because some people they really construct their entire identity around these beliefs. So when you call that out, it feels like you're calling them out personally, but
Right.
I think it's effective.
Right. Now, okay, this is so interesting. You know, the way you talk about wokeness is how I felt growing up in the 90s and 2000s about the conservative movement of that era, where I was like, why are you telling me to be this way? Why are you saying this is the only way I can be? I want to be any way I want to be successful. So how do you define success? You know, what is success for both of you? I'd love to hear what you both think is once you reach it, you'll be like, I am successful. Or are you successful now? You know, how do you view it?
Well, I think I agree with Danya, and this is why I like her. I think success is just happiness. Success is quality of life. A lot of people have this idea that success is directly correlated to monetary value, and that's not really it. Success is just happy. I think the most successful person is a person who's happiest, because that's the point of life is creation, and also to live the happiest existence and live the fullest life possible.
Yeah,
do you
I
agree?
agree with you. I think a lot of people have this mindset that if they make more money, then they'll be happy or they'll be successful. But happiness isn't something you can really chase. It's something that you find within yourself. And I think it takes a long time for a lot of people to realize that. Because there's millionaires, billionaires, and they have all the money in the world. They can buy whatever they want and they're not happy.
Right.
Right. And when I compare myself to the person making 100 or wanting to make 100 million, it's not because I really want that much money. You don't need that much money. It's the pursuit. I think that's the masculine imperative, is to constantly pursue towards more and towards conquering and towards achieving as much as possible. I think that pursuit of that makes you the happiest.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you're working on something and if you have a specific goal and mission, then it's hard to really veer off in the wrong direction.
Okay, I'm so happy you guys said that, because there is this assumption that when people view, especially your work, Sneako, that there's some sort of goal to be the richest in the whole world, as if money buys you, happiness or joy, So how do you sort of change that narrative around your image? Because I see you that way. That's how I see you. I see you as somebody who's reaching for something deeper and more meaningful, but for some reason, like, people can't see that in you. And why do you think that is?
I think because most people don't go into social media or go into the space with that intention. That's always been my intention.
Mm.
It's been creation. It's been artistic. And that's why I'm kind of shifting away. I haven't been live streaming as much, because I'm just trying to create the best videos possible. I want to make the same stuff that I was making in like 2018, 2019 when I was making these masterpiece videos, because that's the happiest feeling I ever got. Like, of course, I'm making like good money now, but the most successful that I've ever felt is after making a video like Everything Happens for a Reason or Fake It Till You Make It at 20 years old, finishing the video, rendering it after like a week of making this, and then pressing upload, and then just letting this idea, this baby that I created, and then putting it out into the universe. That's the happiest feeling that I have. And so that, I think you understand that, but a lot of people get into this because, and this is why it's become so oversaturated, and there's so much noise and back and forth and drama and clickbait and extreme headlines, is because people get into this like, okay, I can make money off this. I can get influence off of this. They don't go into it with pure intentions. They see it as a business. I saw it as a way, and I started YouTube like when it was in the golden age. I see this as a place of self-expression. I don't view it. I had to like retrain my mind to view it as a business, because when I was living in Harlem and I was making around like $2,000 a month, and I was just like feeding myself and paying for my rent based off the YouTube videos, that was like the coolest thing of all time for me. The fact that I can create what I want to create and then pay this. I didn't care about the rest. I had to go and talk to more business-minded people, and they were showing me how much they were making with less subscribers, and I had to retrain my mind to be like, okay, money can get you to a different place that you hadn't seen before. You recognize that, but I think it's because people don't really go into it with pure intentions, and it's hard to, because you'll get shot down so much. There's so much negative feedback. There's so many negative comments. There's so many people that will try to bring you down, that like to go into it with pure intentions is almost stupid. Because why would you risk your reputation? Like, you've seen people try to destroy my life. You've seen people try to ban me. They tried to get me, like they accuse me of all these things, destroy my reputation, lie about me. I'm getting the fake news is writing about me, saying all this. It's difficult to go into it like and just try to be honest and vulnerable and authentic, because they'll eat you alive. But I've developed a thick skin without doing it for a long time, so it doesn't really affect me anymore. But anybody else seeing that and the way that the people that hate on what I do talk about me, why would they go into it with pure intentions? That's a stupid thing. It's better to see it as a business and not as an extension of yourself, which is how I see it. It's better to see it as something that you just do separate, because then you put your entire reputation on the line.
Now I didn't ask you, what do you do for a living? So I can, are you allowed to say it out loud? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm a dental nurse and trained to be an esthetician.
Okay, cool. Oh, that's a great job. That's a great paycheck right there, girl. Good for you. Okay, that's interesting. Are you doing it for the money?
Partly just for more freedom, so I can travel. I love, but it does feel good to be able to make a change in people's lives and make them feel more confident in their own skin. So
that's cool.
Okay, that's the most rewarding thing.
Yeah, it's funny when you're in the game of survival. You have to pick a job that pays you so you can feed your kids and support yourself. Like, that's like, you have to do that. So then the question is, you said it earlier about, you don't work a day in your life, picking something you're passionate about, but not everybody gets that luxury. We're pretty special, at least, being a YouTuber in general, content creator, I feel like I really worked hard to do this 2 to 3 jobs at a time until I could. And now I hope I always keep it going on forever. But then I have to be more business minded. To keep this going, I do have to think about business to some extent, because the way I talk pushes a lot of people away. And so I have to think to myself, okay, that's not the message I meant to send, but that's what they heard. So what do I do? Do I act differently? Do I just change my words? Like, I have to ask myself those questions. Now, what do you guys do when you're having this moment where you have to decide which version of yourself do you show the public? I guess more in Sneako's case here. So what is that like what is that conversation you're having with yourself? Because for me, it's always back and forth. Do I talk differently? Maybe I can say it this way. I'm thinking about not cussing in my videos so I can get that bag from AdSense. I'm like, should I do this? Like, I do cuss. Should I pretend I don't cuss? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's hard to be authentic in that way. Rumble gives you a lot of freedom where I can do, when I'm live streaming on Rumble, I don't care. Like, when I'm just talking to my chat. When it's just me in the chat, then I can be myself. And that's actually, I find myself even be more authentic than in most conversations because it's free flowing, it's entertainment. People are just there to hear me talk. So it doesn't feel like back and forth. Or it doesn't feel disingenuous whatsoever. It's actually so freeing to be on Rumble compared to YouTube, because YouTube, like, I had to say, like, when I talked about the shot, I would be like V word. I couldn't curse, and so I would come up with all this lingo, and I still say it instead of, like, I'll say corn, but people know what I'm talking about when I talk about corn, or grape, like if you have to talk about. But I do notice recently I've done podcasts and I've done debates where I've been scrutinized so much, and there's so many people even watching this right now. You have to be aware that there's probably 20 or 30 reaction channels watching this conversation ready to find a sentence where I slip up so that they can make an entire video. Sneako's vibe, blah, 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 blah. Huh? I hate you. Yeah. That's what's happening, like, literally right now. Like, even as I say this word, say the sentence. And I did a podcast with Pearl yesterday, and I was talking about something about how, like, Japan is successful because they're a homogenous society. And I was I was thinking while I was saying it, people are going to try and say I'm a white supremacist. Like, while I'm just expressing an idea that I had while in Japan, people are going to try to find a way to call me racist. Right. Or I was in a debate with Aiden Ross, and I was talking about World War II, and I was very aware, like, this is going to be a clip on Twitter. Like, I know as soon as this is going to go, and it was, rightfully so, but then you just have to be aware of that now. And I just see it as part of the game. I don't let it, like, I'm okay being scrutinized. It's some people say, like, I've seen some people say, like, Sneako has a humiliation fetish, and that's absolutely not the case. That's absolutely not the case. But I just don't really care about the scrutiny on social media because it never manifests in real life. I've never seen it. I just get positivity, like the people at the front desk of this hotel. They shake my hand. They like ask if I need anything extra. People always take pictures, and well, you have to be realistic. The same people who talk about me online, they probably see me in public and take a picture with me. So I see it as entertainment. I see it like people like to engage in drama content. People like to scrutinize. People like to like they like doing it. So fine. Like, I'll be I don't care. Like, that will help me get my message out there more. And in a way, it's really got to been canceled and everything, but people can't stop talking about me. I feel like I hacked the system in a lot of ways where I'm banned off of most of the platforms, and my name is I was trending on Twitter worldwide for like weeks straight. Just people. I saw you. YouTube, just like every day. There's like, I just searched my name yesterday, and just all these videos like, what's the reason that the Sneako, like, what happened to him? Like, people like men in their 30s and 40s are like, Sneako, they can't stop talking about me. And I see it as the way. This is how Trump won the election. This in 2016 was. The mainstream media, all they did was just poop all over him. Russian collusion, he's a misogynist, grab him by this. They would not stop talking about him. They tried so hard to ruin his reputation. What happened? He won the election. So even though they're against him, you're going to reach the people. So being polarizing is a really effective method at beating the censor machine, at beating the propaganda machine, because if real recognize real, the people that really understand, they're not going to believe the lies that they see on CNN. They're not going to believe the lies from the fake news. I get called racist. People call me like literally, which is so weird. Yeah, they'll write articles saying Sneako is a white supremacist ally. Sneako's a racist, and of course, like, some people close to me are like, but not because they actually think I'm racist, because they're afraid of what other people are going to say. For sure. But they don't exist. These people, it's all it is the way I see it is it's just pure entertainment. I know that I have good intentions, and so do you. And that's why I thank you for doing the podcast. I think people can see that. So I understand how media is. They like to poop on people. Let them. As long as you are confident in yourself and you're living a good life. We're in London, and life's great. So like,
People feed off negativity. It sells. I think if someone's more positive, they don't even get the same amount of. Not as many people are going to be talking about them.
True.
Essentially, so people say the outlandish things because they know that it's going to get people's attention. The same with the media. The media use scare tactics and they put stuff out on the internet to scare people, and they have half the population of the world living in fear of news that probably isn't even true.
Yeah, I think there is a big problem with misinformation and a big problem with just selling a product. So the problem is, like, we're all hearing different news. We all have different sources, and who are these sources and where are they getting their information from? It's hard to even know, which is why my work is predicated on more what we believe versus what we know, because I don't think we know as much as we think. I think we just have different information. So what's the downside to being yourself, but also being the person that people hate? So there's an upside. You get, everyone talks about you, you go viral, you become rich. What's the downside?
The downside is, I mean, I would say the number one downside is like stressing out the people closest to me.
Yeah.
Like they'll, yeah, I don't want to say too much because it's gonna, but like, yeah, they'll see the conversation that you've had, or like the debates, and like they're like, "Buh," and they start reading the comments, and they get, it's just stress. It's just stressful for them. I'm used to it, but it's just like the people that care about you, they get worried. So that's been the number one detractor. Other than that, that's no big deal. You'll get slandered a little bit. People will lie about you, and people will see you as a brand risk. Like there's some business opportunities that I've missed out on, definitely, because people think like don't associate with him, and it's not because they actually think I'm a racist. It's because there's articles calling me racist, and they don't want their brand to. They don't want to associate with that. So I get it. It's like being a brand risk will close a lot of doors, but at the same time, it's freeing, because once those doors are closed, then you're not held back the same way that you feel like you're held back on YouTube by certain words. Like if I'm never going to get a brand deal with this water bottle or this water company, then I don't need to go and change my language or pretend like I don't think certain things. I can just be as honest as possible. Ye said that to me, like after he never was more free. Like once his bank account got frozen, he's like, I'm a free man now. Now, what else? They have nothing else to take away from me. They took my family, they took my bank account, they took everything there. So I'm a free man.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing holding me back from being authentically myself.
Do you know the philosopher Diogenes?
No.
He was during Alexander the... Go ahead, you've heard of him?
Yeah, I don't know too much about him though, but...
There's this funny story about Diogenes during Alexander the Great's like moment in time. Diogenes was this philosopher. He had given up all his material possessions, and this is an alleged story, of course, right? Like this is what we've been told throughout history. But he's laying on the grass. He's given up everything, guys. Just everything. He has one single bowl. But then he sees a child using the cupping of his hands to feed himself. And he's like, well, why do I even have this bowl? So he gets rid of the bowl. And as he's laying on the grass and the sun is shining in front of him, Alexander the Great comes to him and says, what can I do for you? Tell me, I'm a war hero. I have everything. What can I give you? And Diogenes says, move. You're blocking the sun. There's nothing you need except your joy, your happiness, your fulfillment and meaning and purpose in life. And that's not going to look the same for all of us, right? So for Diogenes, it was to know that he's the freest he is when he has nothing holding him down. For the rest of us, we need to eat and have shelter and go to London. So we do need some money. So realistically, when you're sending out this message that people are hearing and they look at you and think, I'm never going to be Sneako though. I'm not going to risk my family being, anxiety filled. I'm not going to risk my reputation. I'm not going to risk this and that. What message would you send to them if they're not willing to take those big risks? What risks could they take? What message could you send to them to give them hope that they could find their own path without becoming one of the most talked about negatively people on the internet?
The reality is most people are not really even in a world where they feel like they need to go and challenge the status quo like that, or engage in those types of conversations. I think that's a very specific type of person that wants to put themselves out there like that. So people can find themselves in different ways. We're similar in that this is the way that we find ourselves, like being able to have open dialogue and talk online. But most people, they'll find it in their own personal lives. So for those people, it's like, I don't really think that that's a challenge for them to go and risk that. Ignorance is bliss is true. People like to, a lot of people like to live in the comfortable lives that they're fed. They don't want to challenge their worldview. They don't want to think that they've been fed a lot of lies. They don't like to think that the government doesn't actually care about them, or the powers that be have a different agenda. And that's okay. If they will live, a lot of times they'll even be aware of that, but they'll push it out of their heads just so that they can just like just go to their yoga class and go home. It's just too much, and I get it. So, but I don't think that's a problem for most people.
Well, hold on. Since you work a normal people job, girlfriend, you got to tell us, what is it like being a normal person with a normal job, normal goals, but yet here you are with Sneako. Here you are on my podcast. So tell us.
I don't know. It's very different, I would say. Yeah, I do see a lot of people every day, just average, normal, everyday people, and people that work normal jobs, and they just believe everything that's given to them, and they just take it for what it is, and they just get on with it. I mean, some people are comfortable like that. I mean, ignorance is bliss, I guess.
It is. It totally is. Now, okay, see, this is what my work is about. But here's where I feel like I've come through with radical acceptance, that I don't think my job in life is to change people. It's to give people the option to change. Like, I'm saying, live your life, go to your 9 to 5, come home. That's great. That's beautiful. Have a family, do your thing. But if you find yourself asking, why aren't I joyful? Why aren't I happy? Why can't I feel that satisfaction, that meaning in life? Maybe I could find the answer, I don't know, on YouTube. Maybe I could find it in a book. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to send a little beacon to people that are trying to do something a little more unorthodox. My life is not normal, but I feel normal every day. And that's something that I struggle with. So what like, do you have a relationship with that? Because you must feel normal, right? You must feel like a normal person.
Yeah, I am a normal person. And I think it's just that's how I'm able to separate the negativity online or trending or like people nonstop talking about me. Is like I said, it only exists on the computer and on my phone.
Yeah.
I've never seen it, not once. And you would think trending worldwide after being canceled for weeks straight on Twitter, being like one of them, you would think that there'd be something happening, but it does not exist. And that's been the best way for me to not care about it. It's just like, I just see it purely as entertainment. People like to engage in a certain way.
Isn't it interesting though? Because like, okay, this is a thought I have, and it sounds like it's a contradiction. I have a thought where I'm like, my audience got not my audience. An audience of somebody else got really upset with me, and they were like, did you hear what Brittany just said? She just said in her real life. She just insinuated YouTube's not her real life. And I was like, it's not. It's my job, and it's a thing I do on the internet. But then when I shut it off and I hang out with my family and with my fiance, that's my real life. Exactly. Like, that's my life. So I'm realizing that I'm not even as we are normal. That's what I'm saying. But why? Okay, I'm online, but I'm not chronically online. You know that term, like, you're chronically online? My real life is my family. I have real problems. We have real solutions. We have real things that we're doing. And online is this cool job that I get to have. But I didn't realize that people didn't know that about me because I've been on the internet for so long. They thought Brittany was also one of us. And I was like, no. To be clear, I live offline. My real life is off the computer. But at the same time, here's the contradiction. This is a part of me, and it's authentic, and it's real, and it's meaningful to me. So it is a part of me, but yet it's not the whole real me. It's like a part of Brittany that needs to be on. I need to make videos. I don't know what's wrong with me. I need to do it. Right? So do you have that relationship with yourself where you're offline and that's your real life, but then your videos are so real. They mean so much to people. They're so beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You got to see it like as an art form or as creation, and also in a sense like as a job. Like your job, I'm sure you think about it. Your job is there's your work, like there's your work persona, but when you come back home, you hang up your tie, you put your shoes in the closet, and then there's that life. So one funny thing is a lot of people that I debate with like furiously and that you've had disagreements with, I'll hang out with them in real life. Like, we'll get food. We'll talk. We'll like go and rock climbing, stuff like that, and then like it's back here, and then we're
literally
like yelling at each other, and then people like are so confused and like, oh, I like that you guys could, because I know how to separate that. It doesn't have to be your whole thing. Like, I'm sure we would get along, and I'm sure we'd have like if we met in real life, we'd have a completely different conversation than what we're having right now.
For sure,
it doesn't have to be your entire existence, and if if that's where you derive all of the meaning from your work, then you're gonna have an empty existence. So this is why I'm putting a strong effort in traveling the world and meeting different people and training every day and just having a life that is really separate from this, because I see the effect that it has when everybody that constantly talks about me or tries to bring me down or accuses me of all this stuff, they're just in their room. Like they are the chronically online people. And I think that that's a really important point for the people watching to see. It's like, how much of that do they actually hate me, or how much of that is because they exist chronically online and they attach so much of their self-worth from that? Everybody who hates me so much, that they have a lot of things in common, where they're a talking head in the same room all day. A lot of them are much older than me, and they just sit there, and you never see them anywhere else. I think it's important, and I think it's effective too, that, I mean, we're in London. I met Danya yesterday. I like to meet new people. I'm about to go to Bucharest and meet a lot of people. I'm going to Romania this weekend.
Cool.
And going to go to South America, and just continue seeing the world. And I'll continue making my content, but it's important for people to, I think it's important for the next generation of young men to understand that if you make money online, and if you have a business online, you don't need to just game and watch porn and like have just YouTube be your whole, or like TikTok. That doesn't have to be your life. Right. It's an extension. Like that's a form of communication, but it doesn't have to be your whole. It can be a self-expression, but that doesn't have to be your whole existence. In fact, it shouldn't. It's better if you're not. It's better if you have experiences to tell, stories to tell, and things to share from your experiences around the world. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that are starting to wake up. And the reality is, it's harder to wake up women. Women are more easily programmed than men.
Stop it.
You think so?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is why
I think humans are programmable. I think it's just humans. Do you think it's gender?
They are, but men are more capable of waking up, are more susceptible to criticism. Like when women hear criticism, and we were just talking about this, like she has one of her best friends is stuck in her ways and she's around bad people, and Danya will try to tell her, like, you need to get away from these people, or like, come on, this is how women are. Like when women tell each other accomplishments, the first thing they do is compare. Like, what did you say? Like you told her about a job you got, and she's like, "Why are you're throwing it in my face? Why are you throwing?"
Wow,
because
that's hard.
Men, in my experience, it's like you uplift each other. It's like, oh, good stuff. Like you're able to self-improve. Women are not good at as good at self-improvement as men. That's just a hard reality. Brittany, if you disagree with me, can you name one? Can you disagree? Besides yours, because I see an essence of it. But what's the most popular self-improvement podcast for women?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, since the majority of men are the ones on YouTube, I assume that wouldn't be as big of a market there, right?
I think when I think of a woman's podcast, I think Call Her Daddy.
Oh, I don't watch that. I've never even watched it.
That's the most popular one. That's the most popular female podcast.
That's so funny. I don't know that. I don't watch that one. I guess I do watch most podcasts hosted by men, but interviewing women. So I guess, I can't think of a woman's podcast other than comedians, because I watch a lot of comedian podcasts. That's a good, I watch The Diary of CEO, but that's a man. And I watch like a bunch of like Theories of Everything, but that's a man. But that makes sense, right? Because even Jordan Peterson talks about this, how majority of viewers on YouTube are men. Men are mostly chronically online. Like men are the ones suffering with addiction to screens. So my concern is that it's not even gender, it's culture. My concern, because, I just said this on a live show the other day. One of the greatest things my parents ever gave us as children is not jealousy or envy. Like we do not want what other people have. We want what we can make for ourselves. My dad's an entrepreneur. My mom's like the stay-at-home mom who became part of the business as well. So for us, I guess because we were raised in, like, it wasn't about gender, even though we're Middle Eastern from Iraq. It's not gender. It's good people are not jealous or envious. They make their own. You know what I'm saying? So maybe it's a disconnect of culture more than gender.
It could be, but my bigger point is that the people that I'm going to be able to reach and the people who's more affected, like men are more easy, they are more susceptible to change their minds. Like, okay, yeah, women can be programmed by the people that are doing the program, the most influential people, and this is true. If you don't agree with the self-improvement thing, most influential people are men. And if a woman is not being influenced by her husband or by their father, someone is going to take that patriarchal role and end up influencing her. So even if she thinks she's an independent queen, she's probably influenced by the media. The media is male dominated, or she's influenced by the government. The government's male dominated. The government's telling her when to stay inside, when to go to work, what she should do, or her boss at her job. And her boss, 90% of the time, is a man. So the man is always in that influential role, whether or not we like it. And this happens in families too. If you don't raise your kid properly, what happens is somebody in the school is going to end up raising your kid, or the friends around. It's usually it's a masculine figure.
Yeah.
My bigger point is that the people that I'm going to be able to reach, and this is just a hard truth, it's going to be young men. Those are the people who are going to be susceptible to understanding this, and that's why I think it's extremely important for me to travel and show a different lifestyle, because women are going to be like they'll admire it, or they'll be like they'll respect it, and they'll see what, but they're not going to go and emulate it. They're not going to want. They're not going to go and emulate that. A young man will. So I think that that's the most effective form if you want to make a change in the world. Getting the young men, the military age men, people a little bit younger than me, that's who's going to be able to make a change. Because if you can lead the household, and if strong men are the people that are going to mold society. I think that's why things are kind of becoming a lot of extremely nonsense, because there's a lack of strong men. There's a lack of men being able to take that lead, and they give up. They would rather, change their gender, or say that gender roles don't exist, and be chronically online, and not take the risk and not take the steps necessary in order to lead. But the more strong men you have, I think the better a world you have, because if you have a strong man, then you have a happy woman.
I think generally speaking, there is a lack of discipline and leadership. And I think because I work with such niche communities, gender becomes a non-issue basically, because I work mostly with queer people. Like even in my relationship, I'm the breadwinner. Like I'm not concerned with gender roles in that regard. But I think that generally speaking about straight heterosexual couples, I think that there is that struggle dynamic, because the studies they do on women who are successful, who leave corporate to become mothers and who want strong dominant men, they're often straight women. So, your audience is so much wider than mine. It's such a different part of the population. I'm just talking to the few in between who are sitting here not concerned so much with gender roles. But I wonder, do you think that those communities deserve a place of joy and happiness outside of that particular framework, outside of the framework that works for straight couples?
Of course, I think everybody deserves happiness, and I want everybody to be happy.
Yeah.
I just see it as the most effective way, or the most effective use of my voice. Is of course, I like to entertain, I like comedy, and that's fun. But when it comes to influencing and impact, it's reaching young men.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most impactful use, because if I create men that are happier, that are stronger, that have a better life, that are making more money and not programmed, if I impact them, then the rest of the world is also, and it's bigger than just straight relationships, because if you have strong men just around you in the community, strong men create a better world. Weak men are the biggest problem. People call me misogynist all the time. I think that it's a weak emotional man. It's somebody who's unstable, somebody who's not in control. That's the person who ends up lashing out and makes people scared. The reason that a lot of women have their guard up is because they've been around a creepy guy who was too, or a stalker. Women, these bad experiences from weak men traumatize women, and that's why I think that's the most important thing to use your voice for.
Okay, wait, I really vibe with this idea, because I think that there's always tell me if you agree with this, that it's not that men need to be emotional, because being emotionally irregular is not good. It's that men need to have a relationship with their emotions so they don't lose that discipline. Is that sort of the narrative? Oh, I'm sorry, girl. Say it again. Your audio cut out.
Emotional intelligence. They need to be emotionally intelligent, and there's not many emotionally intelligent men anymore.
Yeah.
Not that I've come across anyway.
Or women. I think everyone's struggling right now. I think everyone's kind of in a we're not doing too good out here. So that's why I think your voice is important for that motivation. And it's what I'm trying to do, which is to say, look, regardless of where you've come from or what you're facing, now I've got mental illness, and now I've got chronic illness, and I'm okay, doesn't matter. Scratch it. Just reinvent the wheel in your own way. Reinvent your life. So what? The universe sent this your way. God sent this your way. Whatever it is, your cross to bear, you can still succeed. But that's really hard. Knowing you can succeed, that's why I like people who walk the walk. See, if I ever want to make $1 million, I'd call you, because you did it, right? I would call people who have done things, right? What do you think about that? Do you think people should have to walk the walk to be respected?
Yeah, I have people message me, and they're like, man, I like what you do a lot. I want to start making red pill content too. I want to go and inspire. And I'm like, what have you done? And they're like, well, Well, so they really want to talk about the same things, but it's like if you don't have the degree, if you don't have the job application, then you're not going to get the job. People don't take that as seriously, and that's why I'm saying like it's extremely important to have real world experience, to have life
Yeah.
experience. And I'm a social media guy. Like I grew
Yeah.
up on I grew up on my phone. I grew up on the internet. So I have to actively seek it out. A lot of people, they have like the people that I talk to and that I respect and that I communicate with a lot of time around the world. They are accomplished men in their fields. A lot of come from like military background, security, fighters, and businessmen. They have and then social media is separate. I'm
Yeah.
a social media guy, and I know a lot of people who watch this. They grew up like this. As I'm 24, and so they have to actively seek it out to live a better life. And there's not enough of a push for that. So yeah, you need to. If your whole experience is just video games and comment sections, then you're not going to really have a lot to talk about. So it's extremely important for you to have those conversations and to try and fail new businesses and to travel the world and to train with different people, talk to different people, have these difficult conversations, because that experience will. I think men only learn from experience. I think that men will hear what the truth is, but unless you have a traumatic, or it doesn't have to be traumatic, but unless you have an experience to base it off of, you're not going to really learn. I think men are stubborn in that sense, where you need to go through it in order to realize not to do it. Maybe that's just me. But
That's me too, honestly. That's me too. I want to challenge things, and I'm always very like, I was that way even as a child, and I was raised to be an entrepreneur. My dad had the hopes that I would run his business one day. Like he raised me to like run businesses. And I sat there, and I think every time I came across something that felt like a challenge, I felt excited. Like I was excited at the idea of problem solving, which is why my job now is like problem solving, like interpersonal relationships, which is so girly of me, huh? I'm a woman, so how do I make my money? By helping people with their relationships or their lives or understanding themselves, which is like such a girl thing to do. But look how I made both happen. Like I called my dad up this year and I was like, hey, I made my 6 figures. I finally did it. It's taken me 3 years of hardcore trying, and I'm really proud of myself. And he was like, that's amazing. He's not very excited about all my content since he's pretty religious, but overall, he congratulated me on doing the one thing he knew he raised me to do, which is to be self-sufficient, to be independent, to be my own thinker. And that's really difficult in the world because, like you said, everyone is trying to tell you how to think. Everyone is telling you who to be and how to be. So I'm going to ask you guys a few more questions and then we can wrap up. So I'm very curious. You have someone come to you and they say, this is who the world's telling me to be. This is who I want to be. How do you know if it's a good decision to be who the world wants you to be versus who you need to be? How do you know it's a good decision?
I don't think that you should take anybody's advice 100%. I think you need to go apply it to your life and see how you can, because everybody has a different path, and it's not gonna. You can't copy anybody else's trail, or it's just walking in their footsteps. So it's important to create your own path and to take different influences and be careful about the type of influence that you have. We always say that, or this is a common knowledge, that you're the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
So be careful about who you're around, because if you let the wrong person in, if you let the wrong influence in, if you're not aware of who's influencing you, then you're going to be a shitty person, like the person telling you garbage.
Yeah.
Be very careful, and you have to be analytical, and it's very important to question, like, why do you hold the beliefs that you hold? People are extremely like dead set on what they believe in. I don't think enough people think about why or who said it or what the motivation is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would just be very wary of that, because there's a lot of people with bad intentions out there.
Absolutely. And for you, you chose a job that you went into with a lot of, I guess, purpose, money, and it's something good to you. But how do you make that decision as well? If someone came to you, I guess, even if you had that moment for yourself, like what would you say to them?
I take everything with a grain of salt. I listen to a lot of people.
Not you, her.
Yeah, I think, again, I would take their advice and I guess use it to my advantage, but I wouldn't follow exactly what they're saying in their footsteps. I think you kind of take it and mold it into your own kind of version, I guess.
No, I agree. Okay, I'm going to ask you guys my favorite question I like to ask people. All answers are good answers. Are you ready? Okay.
It could be a bad answer, but
no bad answers. All good answers. Okay, actually, Sneako, you can go second. Okay, I want to know, what is your favorite part about existing, being alive, truly?
If she said murder, would that be a bad answer?
You know what? It would be, if it's a real answer, it's a good answer, but also a questionable answer.
Being in nature, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Being in touch with nature and being like in the actual world is really important. I think people are so closed off from the real world nowadays. Everyone's on their phones, everyone's online all the time. Sometimes you just need to take a breath of fresh air and just come away from it for a minute and just breathe. And I think that's the best feeling.
Is it about being grounded?
Yeah. Just the feeling is so good. Even if you just like have your feet in the grass outside.
Yes.
It feels like
so good. 100%. Yeah, I agree with this. No, so wait, are you a nature person? Do you actually go hiking?
I love going for walks. I mean,
okay,
I
love that.
To hike in London,
I love a good walk. I'm all about the walks, girl. No, I love that. Okay, I'm glad you're walking the walk. I'm really gonna push this for the next year. If I have anyone lecture me who doesn't walk the walk, I'm really sick of it. So I'm glad you go on your walks, girly. Now, Sneako, answer the same question. What's your favorite part about existing?
Favorite part of existing is the finish line, is finishing a struggle or getting over something that was difficult and then seeing the other side of it.
Yeah.
That's the best part, especially after something that was very difficult and challenge. I like accomplishing something that was difficult. I like going, I like the growth, and I like the struggle. There's been the difficult things in my life, and now I've come to appreciate it because I'm like, well, at the end of it, I'm going to come out a better person. I'm going to learn something. I value struggle because people who don't have any struggle, they're not worth talking to. They're boring. They got nothing to say. They have nothing to, I just don't want to talk to those people. I think as a man specifically, going through struggle will, depending on how you react to it, will mold you and also make you stronger and make you better overall, and make you learn more and help you reach that point of stoicism where you're more in control, where you'll feel the emotion, but doesn't mean you need to act on the emotion, and just helps you become more of a well-rounded individual. I think that struggle is important and something that I've come to appreciate more.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. I think struggle is so misunderstood. That suffering of life comes from every great philosopher that's ever come before us, talks about how suffering and sacrifice lead to becoming good men, but good men and women, we lead through suffering. We understand ourselves when we're challenged. And then when we overcome, like every failure is a step to success. And so like life is hard by default. So I think that's a really optimistic message to send, which again, maybe I'm being fooled, Sneako. Maybe you're tricking me, but I genuinely get such good vibes from you, such good energy, such good intentions, that I do think you're trying to help the world in your own way. And that is something that I'm going to, don't tell me if you're faking it. I don't want to know, but I believe you. I think you really are trying to help people.
I mean, if I was faking it, I think it'd be exposed by now.
You think? Okay,
yeah,
noted.
100%. There's so many people that are psychoanalyzing and investigating. I really think you're underestimating how many people are watching this with a literal, like with a microscope and waiting for one of us to slip up because of how much they need me to fail. So with all those people that need me to fail, by now, if I was faking it, it would be common knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I think that was just a lovely conversation. It's also like, I don't know if it just reassured me, but I was just like, I'm telling you, this man is on a journey that I think a lot of people are underestimating. And I think I can't wait to see you in like 10 years. I'm going to follow your career. I expect to see you in 10 years. I expect to see you.
You too. We'll have a great conversation. I'll buy you a coffee.
I'm so glad. That makes me so happy. Really nice meeting you, girly. I'm so glad you could come on.
Lovely to meet you.
Thanks for being on.
Lovely to meet you. Guys, have a great day. Thank you so much.
You too.
Okay.
Stuck in my head, in real life while in bed, my belly's being fed and I'm okay. I'm just fine, yet all I do is whine. Not to you in my mind, cause I know I don't make sense. I've been nothing but blessed, so why's my life a mess? Please tell me, cause I'm sick of thinking. Yeah, I'm sick of reaching out for the truth and living life as a fool. Dun,